This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. I'm your host, Eva Fulton. In this show, we explore the incredible journeys of resilience, healing, and transformation. In each episode, we will sit down with individuals who have faced unimaginable struggles and turned their pain into power, heartbreak into hope, and their challenges into meaningful change and finding new purpose in life. Through candid conversations and inspiring stories, we will uncover how pain, whether emotional, physical, mental, or spiritual, can be the catalyst for profound growth and a deeper sense of purpose. So if you are looking for motivation, insight, and real stories of triumph over adversity, you're in the right place. Let's get started on this journey from pain to purpose. Let's give veterans a voice through Military Broadcast Talk. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show. Today is Saturday, June 6th. Can y'all believe it? We're already halfway into the year. This is the year of our Lord, 2026, and I'm back in Texas. I don't know if y'all have been following me. I'm finally back home. This was quite the journey the last few months. If you hadn't been following me, our office moved farther away. I had been since September 2023 staying with my dad in the Eastern Shore in Maryland. So my commute went from about 2 hours one way to closer to 3 hours one way. And that just became unsustainable for me. And, trying to get sleep on the bus was the best you could try to do to, cope with the long days. But when you're already working a 10-hour day, adding another day to shorten the day, another work day, didn't make sense because that was going to mean 6 more hours of travel commuting. So, it was by truck, by bus, by walking and metro each way. And that just was not fun. So I put in a request for a reassignment to come back to Texas. Because the other caveat on it was if I sold or rented my house out, I was going to unhouse my 2 kids that live here. And Dad's 83. When he passes away, I'm going to have to sell the house. And then I would have become unhoused. Yeah, probably not a good idea working for HUD and becoming homeless. Not my choice of, the way I want life to go. So I put in a request and it was granted. And I made the journey last weekend, did some decompression along the way and enjoyed the fresh air. Headaches for the most part have gotten so much better as well. And, still trying to maintain my work schedule and everything. Was able to go to the VA this week and get some treatment in. I have, it's amazing what you have to do when you work someplace else, but you keep your VA. And my VA wasn't broken, so I didn't change it. I have a procedure scheduled next week, as actually. And so I'm getting back into my groove of things and doing some self-care, and love that my massage therapist is just right up the road that I haven't been able to do since I was here in February. So lots of pluses and benefits of being back home where I belong. But I also, I want to make sure that y'all know that I kicked off my study. So ladies here in Texas really need your help and participation so we can have our voices heard through the academic side of things. Because why? Nobody's asked us. And now I'm asking. I need your help to help us. Okay. So I'll post that link towards the end of the show. And anyways, need your help. So now today I have a guest. You know, my show is built on, I always use this same analogy of, this wooden chair, very stable wooden chair that's got 4 legs. And each leg represents a type of pain: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And sometimes I'm very lucky to find people and ask them to come on my show who I think probably cross the gamut of what that type of pain looks like. Because when you start experiencing a certain physical pain, that challenges your mental and emotional side. And then it usually tugs at your spiritual side, because then you're like, well, why me, God? Why? If y'all know my story about having my car wreck, an MP T'd my car on my 22nd birthday, survived Desert Storm, only to be T-boned by an MP. You run through these things in your head, and the physical, ramifications, just it compounds things, and you start questioning why. And then it affects your relationships, it affects work, it affects a whole bunch of different things, and you're still asking why, what do I do? But I think the hard part is finding the things that actually work. And sometimes it's diet, sometimes it's the pills that I'm going to say the word push, but I've gone through that process as well, both active duty and the VA here take a hydrocodone. I used to get the big bottles with 100 capsules in them and 100 tablets, and that was nothing. Took them for a long time until I had a VA tech actually ask me, Miss Fulton, why are you still taking those pills? Because I'm still in pain. So, and if y'all don't know, I had 3 screws in each knee and a knee replacement. My back is messed up, and I broke it twice in 2022. I have plenty of reasons that I have asked all of these questions myself, and then wondered, how do we navigate things, and looking for other options on how to feel better. And if we're all being very frank and honest, and if you guys follow me and Daryl on the Revivalist Radio show, then we have to ask ourselves some really good questions. What is going to work for me? Right? And you have to have the conversation with God. Help show me another thing out there that I might be able to try, because those pills aren't working. The the other things, the alcohol's not working. What else is out there? And sometimes we have to, we understand from the public administration and legal side of the world, that even in our federal government, some things are legal and some things are illegal. But that doesn't mean we can't find and figure out what those options are, and start exploring and having some real conversations about what we can do. Right. And that's why I reached out to Scott Yep, gonna get the nerdy glasses on so I can see the screen. So Scott Roessler is a retired U.S. Army Special Forces team sergeant, served 20 years in the special operations community. He deployed 22 times, including 11 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, both with the 75th Ranger Regiment and 7th Special Forces Group. He's a Purple Heart recipient and the recipient of 4 Bronze Star medals, including one awarded for valor in combat. His military service placed him on the front lines of America's post 9/11 conflicts, leading soldiers in some of the most demanding environments of the global war on terror. Following his retirement in 2018, Scott faced a different challenge, and that's understanding the long-term effects of combat, traumatic brain injury, chronic stress, and the transition from a life centered on mission accomplishment to one focused on family, purpose, and recovery. In 2022, Scott participated in the first cohort of the Stanford-affiliated observational study examining Ibogaine assisted treatment for special operations veterans. His recovery journey has included MERT, hormone optimization, sobriety, faith, and a commitment to helping others navigate the challenges that often follow military service. Today, Scott is an advocate for veteran reintegration, neurocognitive recovery, and responsible research into innovative treatment options for veterans and first responders. He's also the author of the forthcoming book, The Operator's Guide to the Universe, which explores resilience, identity, healing, and the mission that begins after the uniform comes off. And Scott is going to be our interview of the week.
The interview of the week is brought to you by Jersey Mike's, a sub above.
Hi, Scott. Welcome to the From Pain to Purpose radio show here on Military Broadcast Radio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show, Ava. It's an honor, and I look forward to sharing as much as I can to help your guests, your followers, understand the complexity and healing powers that I discovered by being a part of the Stanford study.
Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the study itself or what led up to needing to participate in the study?
Yeah, I should probably give your listeners, I'll do like a 3-minute quick bio. So like you mentioned in the introduction, I spent my whole career in Army Special Operations. So I was excited and constantly learning through the fire hose and staying busy meant being deployed a lot. What I didn't realize throughout the course of all those deployments and, continuing through my 20 years and 3 months career that I put in, a lot of what you consider your soul, your personality, your when you're not working and you're just hanging out, trying to be yourself. I couldn't do that anymore. I wasn't just relaxing and being myself. I was constantly switched on. Nothing could be relaxed. Everything was a mission, so to speak. I was constantly thinking, how can I change this environment to better suit whatever it is I'm trying to do? But it was mind-numbing. I couldn't focus on anything else. I was taking some online classes, doing some college, thinking that would help me zero in on something other than constantly thinking about war. But there was no off switch. I could not figure it out. And I tried everything. Before I retired, I did magnetic resonance, I did about almost 100 HBOT dives. I saw some improvements here and there with my cognitive issues, but 9 stellate ganglion shots. Each one helped a little, but eventually I would roll back to drinking as my method of getting sleep. And then, my hormone replacement therapy really helped turn things back on for me in a lot of different ways. So I don't like to forget to mention it. Before the study kicked off, my testosterone was pretty low, like 300. And everything else was jacked up too, because there's constant second and third order effects when your hormone replacement, when your hormones aren't at the right levels, because they're
Mhm.
suppressed due to the cortisol, or you're taxed out as a human, as a high, as a high performer in the world that I was living in. You slept when you had opportunity to sleep. You got up and you execute however, the best that you can possibly do it. You're putting forth 110% all the time. You never are just going for a few months of just relax. You never get that
Right.
opportunity. So you're just suppressing everything that you need to have that relaxed attitude. And we substitute not having it with more PT and drinking and, staying busy, staying deployed. But once I got out, once I retired and realized that I kind of reached what I felt was my best I'm going to get after trying all those different treatment modalities for about a year and a half. That's kind of what I was just telling myself. And I was getting upset thinking about it. Like, there's got to be more. There's got to be another method that I haven't tried yet. And then a good friend of mine, Mike Cassidy, showed up with his daughters to hang out for spring break. And he started mentioning they're thinking about doing a study, and him being on the board of SOCF at the time, the Special Operations Care Fund, he was asking me if I would be interested in being a part of it. And I didn't know what he was talking about, to be quite frank. I didn't know anything about Ibogaine. I had never heard of it. And I didn't know anything about 5-MeO-DMT. Never heard of Ambio. Never heard of anything that he was mentioning. So at first I was like, yeah, I think I've done everything that's possibly there to do. And he was like, no, you haven't done this stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? There had been a few guys that had gone down and done it and had really good feedback. Like, they couldn't believe it was so good feedback. So they decided to try and put the top 3 treatment modalities that they get the best feedback from all the guys they've been helping lately. Was included hormone replacement therapy with Warrior Health Foundation, magnetic resonance therapy. I did all mine with the Cardiff Brain Performance, I think is what it's called, down in Cardiff, California. But they have MERD everywhere. And TRICARE pays for it now. They didn't pay for it, I don't think, when I was down there in 2022 going through it. But I'd never heard of it or even entertained the possibility of doing it, because I didn't know anything about it either. But that's what made me start sleeping again. It was 2 weeks of magnetic resonance therapy in a 6-week assignment. We were all going to do 6 weeks of magnetic resonance therapy while we take all of our hormones every day and make sure we're on the top levels of performance as far as our human hormone levels, right? And then 6 weeks of magnetic resonance therapy, which 2 weeks into it is when I slept like 9 hours. I couldn't believe it. And I went on I was going to do a 5-mile run. I turned it into a 10-mile and felt great. I could not believe it. I hadn't slept without getting up at some point in that night for longer than 4 hours, maybe, if I'm lucky, until that night. So all the nights leading up to this, as I'm in the study, I'm still sleeping like shit every day.
Right.
Maybe 4 hours, right? Maybe 4 hours, get up, go use the restroom, check all the doors, maybe even go outside and walk around around my house to make sure everything's good. Being proactive, not reactive in my mind, right? Then I'm down in Cardiff or Del Mar. Then I go down to Ambio and experience a 37-hour Ibogaine journey, followed by 2 hero doses of 5-MeO-DMT a couple days later. And my life hasn't been the same ever since. I just turned 50.
For the better, right?
As in, my life is constantly improving. Since November of 2022, since November 15th of 2022, every day has been an improvement from the previous day.
Good.
My relationship with my children is constantly improving. It's better now than it's ever been. My relationship with my spouse, constantly improving. It's getting better and better and better, to the point where we're inseparable and best friends. Like what I was trying to see happen between us is finally getting there because I'm letting all the walls down.
Right.
Trusting people was really hard for me for a long, long time. And I'm almost there. And couldn't have gotten it anywhere to where I'm at right now had it not been a recipient of this study. So in my mind, from where I was before the study was even mentioned to me, and before I said, okay, I'll do it, and then it took off and I participated in it, and I'm the recipient of amazing gifts, the clarity in my mind, and the ability to share this with whoever will listen to me since I've gotten back from my own journey brings me the most joy. You mentioned the book earlier. Before I left what we were calling the Cannon House, where each cohort would stay while they were doing the 6 weeks of magnetic resonance therapy, and then your gear would stay at the same house. You go to Mexico and do your journey there with Ambio, and then you come back and you have a day to get your things, and then you fly home or drive or whatever you got. So I left a note at the Cannon House before I jumped in an Uber to head back to the airport. Basically, a one page of that stated everything I wished I knew before I went down to Tijuana. And then a couple months later, one of the house benevolent, great guys that was helping us out while we were down there providing vehicles and other forms of benevolence checked in, Mr. Bob, and he said that every guy that's been down going through this study has read that letter, and they really appreciated whoever wrote it because it answered those questions they were wondering still, the things they didn't have any answers for. And he's like, you should write a book. You should write more. You should include more. And I started thinking about it. Then I heard it a few more times from other friends and family. And my wife and I were sitting around chit-chatting about it one day. And I was like, well, what are we even going to call it? And she helped me come up with it. The Operator's Guide to the Universe came out of her mouth. And I was like, that's perfect.
That's it.
That's how it came to life. And then I've rewrote it a few times, at least three times. And we're at 38 chapters. I quit doing any more additional chapters about 8 months ago. And
you could do volumes 2, 3, and whatever, right?
I mean, I could have. What really changed my whole outlook on this book was when I started reading Carl Jung and getting into his theory. For some reason, it really connected everything because I saw a lot of spiritual stuff on the Ibogaine and the 5-MeO-DMT. It blew me away. Like one wasn't scary and all my trauma versus the other one filling me full of love. I was kind of expecting something like that because I did so many deployments and spent so much time over in the Middle East. I figured I was going to be dealing with that. But the majority of the Ibogaine healing for me was a lot of family stuff, a lot of my childhood issues. Not having my dad really affected me more than I actually knew. And I had a very long conversation with him while I was on Ibogaine. We spoke for what seemed like forever, like hours and hours and hours. I'd say 5 hours. Just everything I wished I had ever said to him came out of me like it was ready. And it wasn't all mean. And he was super chill the entire time. I didn't hear him yell, scream, raise his voice. He was in his man chair from when I was a really little guy. I just remember him loving his brown leather recliner. And he would sit there and we would talk while I would build us a fire in the fire pit in the living room. It was a long time ago. Small little town in Oregon. But up until that happened, I didn't talk about him. And I had zero good, no good thoughts. I just decided that he was going to be blocked out of my mind for the rest of my life. And so on and so forth. But to try to help your readers or your listeners understand, when it's going through some of the, whatever the Ibogaine is designed, whatever Ibogaine needs to show you or help you with is going to help you. Like, everybody's journey is different. Some people are going there because of, everyone has their own reasons. The 30 of us that got picked up for the study, we were all dealing with a lot of the same ailments, like insomnia, and we call it operator syndrome, is like the accumulation of, if you've got anxiety, depression, you're not going to go kill yourself, but man, you're really on the edge, so to speak. Having friends and family and your kids maybe might be the thing that's holding you from going all the way off the edge, so to speak. We were all dealing with our own level of madness that we kept buried inside of us. And speaking for myself, coming out of it, the following gray day, you're in and out, like, because you can't sleep on Ibogaine, so you're really tired and you're nauseous. I thought I was going to puke the whole next day, but I never did throw up. But I was, sweating and kind of sleeping and kind of not. Eventually, the following day, so a day and a half later, we're all sitting around the kitchen upstairs with nothing but smiles. And we were all pretty quiet leading into it, coming from different corners of the United States with our baggage, so to speak. And the following, so they call it the gray day. When you come out of it, you're not up and running around talking about it. You're still nauseous and sort of sleepy, sort of in and out of the medicine space.
Right.
So a day and a half later, we're upstairs sitting there looking at each other with some smiles and starting to, share what we experienced. And everyone had a different sound in their voice, including me. Everybody had a different look behind their eyes. We all noticed it within each other. And the first thing I noticed was all these alpha males we're just giddy. We're acting giddy like a kid. So I think for me personally, a lot of my shit that I needed to handle was from childhood, so to speak. And I think that it takes you back, based on what I've been reading as of the last few years. When your healing process is effective and you're coming out of it the following, I think for a few weeks, maybe, if not longer, you're kind of a kid again. The way you think and feel, I mean, you're still an adult, don't get me wrong, but I felt like amazing. I felt happy. I couldn't figure out how I was just so happy. I was just excited and interested in something other than beer in Copenhagen and somebody that I went to war with. I didn't care about any of that anymore. I wanted to go do something with my family. I wanted to hang out with Jennifer and just talk all day, or take the kids somewhere and just sit there and watch them have fun and actually be a part of it. When before I was just there. I was paying for things. I was making sure everyone's safe. I had a job, but I wasn't in it. I wasn't receiving the joy in it. You know what I mean? I do now. And it's because of that. So all those same questions I had before I went and did this medicine, I want to feel again, because you're writing down intentions. Leading up to going, we had to figure out a couple months ahead of time what our intentions were. So a coach would call and hit me up once a week to dig into those intentions. And I changed them almost every week because she helped me get deeper and deeper and deeper with it. So when you meditate on those thoughts routinely, consistently, it does help a lot when you get into the medicine space and you want to help it start working on things that you're focused on trying to get better at or healing from, so to speak, versus just going down there cold without any knowledge or anything going on, no plan, just going to do it. Hopefully it makes me better. That's different, I think, because being a part of the study, I would assume they listen to all the experts in this field of healing and treating people with the plant medicine. and said, yeah, they should have a coach help them understand what intentions really are and get very deep with those, because the better they focus on those, the better the healing outcomes are.
Is
Oh
it,
yeah,
is that like, is
we
that
also
like
recommend
setting goals? Is that like setting goals on what you're trying to accomplish through this?
Yeah, like why do you, Scott, want to go to Ambio Life Sciences and do a flood dose of Ibogaine? Do you understand that's the most powerful psychedelic on the planet? This is what we call her Cheryl or Kathy was saying. And I'm like, yeah, I want to be a better dad and husband and be a part of the family, you know? That wasn't good enough. Those were too shallow. And the first 2 calls, so it was 2 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, I really wasn't involved with her thought process. I was just thinking, man, this lady's out there. But I was taking away a little bit each better, I was listening more and more. And then finally, after the 3rd conversation, the 3rd phone call, so 3 weeks into it, when she opened up and laid it on me so I would start listening and paying attention, I realized that my initial intentions were absolutely bullshit, too shallow, and not what I needed to work on. I needed to work on my personal insecurities, my vocab, opening up and figuring out why I have walls up and what needs to happen for those walls to come down. Going really, really deep into my issues that I would think would be the root of the causes that I was having when I would just shut down in a conversation with my wife or hear something and it would just run me the wrong way. And then next thing I know, I'm blowing off the family to go drink at a bar with my buddy all night and not get home for supper, just not care, kick the door down, sit in the garage, drink more, complain about everything, and say the same stupid stories every time I would get drunk. I mean, it was an absolute sad state of affairs that I was heading toward. Had I not had a very good ranger buddy and a strong spouse, my wife being there she could have easily said, absolutely not. I don't care. I'm not letting you go to Mexico to do psychedelics. That's what I was concerned about primarily. Because who wants to sit there and tell your neighbors, oh, he just went to Mexico for a week to go do some psychedelics and hopefully get some healing from it. Nobody knew what Ibogaine was in 22.
Right.
Nobody knew.
I think a lot of people still don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was until I saw your posts on Instagram and I was like, hold on, what's this? I mean, because what works for you may work for somebody else. I saw what you were posting was something that was very vulnerable. Because maybe it's going to help reach somebody, that takes a very strong, courageous person to say, hey, I've been struggling and I'm looking for options out there because what I've been trying to do hasn't worked so far. And, so you're just exploring what's the rest of the story that's out there. And let's see, just even doing some catch up for people. Let's tell them I found an Ibogaine fact sheet that is put out there. It's a Legislative Analysis and Public Policy Association put this out on Ibogaine in April 2025. Guess I could share my screen.
Sure.
You and I were talking about, hey, what's the policy side before we started the show? Well, here's where it is. And to catch up, folks, it's a Ibogaine. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Is a naturally occurring psychoactive compound found in the root bark of the iboga plant, the Tabernanthe iboga, indigenous to Central West Africa, specifically in Gabon, Cameroon, and the Republic of Congo. And apparently for thousands of years, ethnic and religious groups have consumed the root bark of the plant during ceremonies and rituals for the psychoactive effects. Part of me thinks, and by the way, this is a Schedule 1 controlled substance. that, has made research of the substance difficult and costly, but there's a renewed interest in Ibogaine as scientists and addiction medicine specialists search for new ways to treat SUD, which is substance use disorder. I think it's interesting that the switch is not as a substance use disorder, but maybe as a what's the term I'm looking for? It's the psychedelic side of being able to do something naturally instead of, like, let's say LSD, right?
Right.
This is a naturally occurring, God made bark, from a tree that is giving some health benefits. And why would we not want to? I'm all for God giving us things that help us in a variety of ways. That if this is an answer that could help, then I'm glad that this is something that is out there. Now we have to educate the public and legislators out there that maybe we could get some more studies and find a way to let active, veterans be able to use it. Or even, I think you were telling me about a fireman story as well that, that is suffering from PTS because of his, what's the first responder?
All the trauma he deals with, pulling people out of fires. And
I've been watching the TV show Rescue Me. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah.
I've just been binging it since my trip last week, and I'm like, wow, I didn't ever look at the rescuers in that manner until I started watching that show, and I was like, wow, it's not much different than what a lot of our military have experienced.
And they're dealing with it every single day in the same place. It's
Right.
like me going to war and just staying there.
Yeah. Crazy.
So no one's ever thought, have they figured out a way to what are firefighters and law enforcement and paramedics doing and first responders doing to handle all their stuff, like all their trauma? Nobody's ever mentioned it.
Right? Yeah, I think they just think, well, they can do their 20 and retire and everybody's hunky-dory, but they end up still having the same issues a lot of the military do with drinking and, the self-medicating side of things. But obviously that's not fixing things. So
absolutely. Same kind of camaraderie.
Yeah.
And you know what a lot of people used to say to me back in the day from all the war, all the deployments, my sisters and my mom all mentioned how I had changed, that I wasn't the brother they remembered when I was little. And because I was really I was a jerk. And I felt like the person that I had become was the person that I was because of all the deploying. And the taxpayers sent me. Granted, I volunteered to go every time, right? It's a volunteer army, volunteer military, volunteering for Green Beret, volunteering to be a ranger, volunteering for everything. I get it. But you know what? I still deserve a little bit of help getting healed up after all those volunteer trips and volunteer training and the volunteer everything. I get it. But if you don't want to join yourself and you do want to have the ability to go anywhere and do anything and live an awesome free life here in the United States, been all over the country, been all over the planet, and I've never been to another country anything like America. And it's because we have an amazing military. So let's focus on how we can help them along with the first responders and law enforcement.
I hear you, Jose. Jose posted, I self-medicated for years. I think that that's the legal accepted norm for a lot of people to self-medicate. And I think the reaction for us is understand that doesn't have to be the answer. There could be other things like Ibogaine. do you think, Scott, that part of the issue, and I've noticed it with some of my other friends who served in the military as well, is that we learn to put on this mask, right? And if you've seen my book, Walk Into My People Garden, it is a mask. We wear a variety of masks depending upon the audience that we're around, whether it's your buddies in the military, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, whether it's the grocery store, wherever you're at, you learn to wear a different mask. And then when you're alone with your own thoughts, suddenly you're having to think, well, who the fuck am I? Because you don't know. You spent so much time pleasing and handling all these other situations, wearing those masks, is that you don't even know who you are. And that's why, I always talk about it as the pain of the physical, mental, spirit, emotional, and spiritual, because you go through all of the different pain episodes. You learn how to not focus on you because everybody else matters, but then you don't even know what you like to do when you get out of the military. What are my hobbies? I don't know. People look at me, Eva, you do all these things. Hey, I'm just having fun trying to figure out what does Eva like to do, because I spend all the time in the military. Yes, it was 12 years, but when I got out, I was wife, I was mom, and I became student, but I still didn't know what Eva liked to do.
That's so true.
Right?
Same thing.
Yeah, it's and it's hard because you want to meet other people's expectations, and you don't want to disappoint them. The hard part is sometimes learning that you're disappointing yourself, and you're always so hyper vigilant. How do you turn that hyper vigilance off? I have several friends who have cameras on outside, and they stay hyper vigilant about their surroundings and not knowing how to turn that off. Has Ibogaine helped you with turning it down? Is maybe not off, but has it turned the volume down on that side of things?
Definitely. It's definitely not turned off. I didn't lose any of my
awareness
skills.
Factors. Yeah.
All the stuff I picked up over the 20 years I served are still with me, and they're where they're supposed to be. They're not at the ready, I'm not walking around constantly on the edge trying to think of scenarios that might happen in the next hour while I'm at the grocery store with all my kids. Just I go with the flow like anybody else that's not dealing with 11 tours or one tour or a horrible childhood, or I think there's more people out there than we can realize right now that could use a journey with Ibogaine. Because of, just look at Governor Rick Perry's podcast with Joe Rogan a month or two ago. When my study results were published in January of 2024, it showed a complete reversal with anxiety, depression, suicide ideation, basically operator syndrome, all your mental illness that we get diagnosed with. I got diagnosed with chronic PTSD with depressive disorder. I guess it's like the worst PTSD you can be labeled with. Insomnia, 37 long list of other things. Not all were mental, but what gave me my agency back, the ability to make the right decision quickly versus hemming and hawing on a bad decision over the right decision. There's no more worry about the decision you need to make. It's white and black. it's the good decision, the right decision. It's not, well, I could blow off this and then just stay in the bar and drink for the rest of the night under some hospices that my friend's only in town for the next 10 hours and I got to stay at this bar until it closes before I can come home. Some bullshit like that. Those don't even come across they don't even, now that my empathy is back on and my agency is back and I go to bed when my kids go to bed. That's one of my favorite lines to give someone that's asking me who wants to. Well, I need some proof. What? Give me some proof, Scott. You sound cooler. You sound happier. You're definitely different. But where's the proof other than that? And I'm like, well, I go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock. What? They're like, what? And I go, I put my kids to bed at 9, tuck them in. We have a thing we do. It's fun. And then I roll my butt down the hallway to the wife. And then we sit in our bed and talk about our day and what we got going on. And we might scroll a little. We try not to do that late in bed, but whatever. We're hanging out for 30 minutes and then we kill the lights and hit the sack. We're up at 5:36, make some coffee and figure out what we're going to knock out for the day. And you know what? We get a lot more done. We fight a lot less. And when we do have an issue, it gets resolved within about 5 or 10 minutes versus 5 or 10 days later.
Yeah.
When it's morphed into something completely ass backwards from what it originated from. You know what
Well,
I mean?
I didn't know you before, but I can see a sparkle in your eye and some joy in your face, the smile. You know, you can't fake that, you know, you can't fake that.
When I talk about it in other circles, operator syndrome isn't just the stress that whoever has all these issues is carrying. You know, you don't need to be a Green Beret or a Ranger or a Marine special operator or a fighter pilot or, you know, super squirrel freak of nature to be labeled, you know, injured and having operator syndrome.
Right.
I think it could happen because of head injury and head trauma. We're learning a lot in the last year about what TBI does to your brain, what one TBI does to your brain, not eating charge, like being too close to an explosive charge is not good. However, you have people on your team that you go to war with that are trained extra with demolitions for whatever you guys are going to go do. So no matter what, you're eating all these charges. You know, when I say eating a charge, you're really close to it when it blows up. So the blast wave, the overpressure is going through your body. It's going through your organs. And it creates a protein in our brains that isn't supposed to be there. Under a microscope, it looks like coffee grinds. And it is like going to lead to dementia or lead to this Alzheimer's or what have you.
That sounds like something that a friend of mine has described that he has on his scan. And it's up here and I think they're trying to figure out what are they going to do. Is that something that can be extracted out? Does he need to have brain surgery for that? You know, I don't know.
I'm anxious to get another MRI to see what's going on with my brain because there was like massive improvements from my EEGs through the magnetic resonance therapy and the follow-up MRIs I did after I came back from Ambio Life Sciences.
I wonder if the
Governor Rick Perry had
study.
27% regrowth of his white matter.
Wow.
I've never heard of that happening.
The bee brain study in Boston. I wonder if you could participate in that. So I'm one of the participants in the bee brain. And you know, there's the War-Related Injury and Illness Study Center, right? That's part of the VA. So I've gone to 2 of the risk studies, and I've been part of the American University study for diet with the organic and glutamate free. So I'm a Gulf War veteran.
Those recipes, please.
Hey, I can share recipes. They're really good. Jose's been part of that study as well. I helped recruit Jose. He's one of our other hosts. His show was on after mine. He does the motivated mindset.
Oh, right on.
So, yeah. What can have you make the rounds? Because he was a sergeant major, and get you on some of these other shows too.
For sure.
Yeah,
These
he goes,
masks
yes,
that I was talking about earlier, I just wanted to run these through you to
yeah.
see what you thought. Especially for some guys and gals that are suffering right now, just don't know what to call it. But these masks, they start with, they pull down this thing I wrote up earlier. Your competence mask. Everything looks fine. You're successful. You show up and you perform. You can get the job done. You can solve problems still. Everyone thinks you're still great. Meanwhile, inside you're exhausted because you've been switched on nonstop.
Right.
You've never had a nervous system reset. Nobody sees it because competence becomes your camouflage.
Yep.
And then you got the tough guy mask. You convince yourself that I'm good. I've got it. Other people have it worse. And you avoid asking for help because you've spent your life being the one that other people depend on. Maybe your leadership was, through some bad deployments, and you feel like other people need to get treated before you can let yourself be treated or something like that. I felt that way too. Then you got the anger mask. Many people think that they're angry. They're not. They're hurt. They're scared. They're overwhelmed. Anger becomes the armor because it's easier than vulnerability. I saw that a lot. And I did that a lot.
Hurting people hurt people. Hurting people, right?
Yeah.
Hurt people. And it's not anger. You're hurting, but it's just an outward reflection of the pain that you're feeling.
And you don't want people to see that. So then you put on your humor mask. I did this a lot. A lot of operators become comedians. Everything becomes a joke. Dark humor, sarcasm, deflection, get the people around you laughing. Nobody realizes humor is protecting the wounds that haven't healed, right? Then you get the isolation mask. That's kind of what I did when I got out. You withdraw, not because you hate people, but because being around people becomes exhausting. And you tell yourself you just need some space. Eventually, the space becomes your distance, and that distance turns into isolation.
Yeah.
And I was in that. I was starting to go into it pretty good before the study kicked off. Then you got your mission mask. And this is dangerous. You stay busy always. There's always another project, another business, another workout, another deployment, another objective, because stillness forces you to hear things you've spent years avoiding. So you're just constantly on the go. I did that a lot.
That's why I hike. I finally found my balance on that. Yeah.
That's good.
That's a tough one.
Then you got your invincibility mask. The biggest lie. Nothing affects me. Combat affected you, guaranteed. Loss affected you. Trauma affected you. The question isn't whether it's affected you. The question is what did you do with it after that? When you got home, how'd you compartmentalize it? What do you do when it comes back to the surface in your head? Do you drink to put it back where you have it, where you have it stored?
Because that drawer wants to pop back open. You can't just
and it will.
Yeah. You got to handle it some way, somehow.
The mask that finally comes off, recovery starts when the masks stop working. And I was definitely at that point. When a person can finally say, I'm tired, I'm struggling, I don't have all the answers, I'm still messed up, I need help. That's where I was at when my buddy came back down. So he started in spring break with his PSYOPs plan. I said, I'm just joking, but he mentions it in spring break. And then he comes back down with his girls in the summer vacation a couple months later. And I gave him the green light to talk to my wife, fill her in on any information that you get on the Ibogaine stuff, because I didn't know anything about it. And so she was read in on more information. I stayed busy. And then he comes back down, and I looked at both of them. I'm like, so what's up? Do you guys want me to do the study or not? And then we're like, Jennifer said, yes, you definitely need to do it. There's some risk, but I think you're going to do fine.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know there were some cases where people had some rough goes with the Ibogaine, but it was because of addiction and not properly being, what do you call it, detoxed,
Right.
refusing to do a detox protocol and all that stuff that goes along with it before you can do the Ibogaine. But in our case, it wasn't detoxing necessarily. It was more, can we do something about the accumulative effects of all the things that we acquired over all those deployments and injuries and stuff like that? And I'm telling you, it blew people away, because I was in the first team of 4 that went down there and started the chain of events, right?
Mm-hmm.
A month after we got done, my group of 4, they had our test computed into the data, and it was an 88% reversal in depression, and like 87% reversal in anxiety and PTSD, symptoms, signs and symptoms, those types of irritabilities and stuff like that.
Is that where you have to answer all of the questions?
It's your standard like psychological evaluation.
Yeah.
That a little bit more in depth than the one you go to the mental clinic to get your prescriptions filled. But I can't remember the name of the organization that they hired to get all the data for the Stanford Ibogaine study, but they would reach out from time to time to my spouse as well. And she'd be sending them a message like, he is still doing really well. I don't understand what's going on, because you go away and you like, for example, if I wasn't doing 6 weeks of magnetic resonance therapy before I went to the Ibogaine, I would have been gone a week, basically. I would have left the angry, pissed off 11 tour Ranger Green Beret and come back quiet, no more outbursts, no more ignoring everybody and just stewing on things, being engaged. My daughters were like looking at each other. I remember all of it. My wife, especially, her resentment started to kick in after about, a couple months, because she realized he's not drinking. It's been a couple months. He quit dipping Copenhagen. What's going on with this guy? She used to carry a couple cans of Copenhagen in her purse for me. God forbid I ran out of Copenhagen. That's how much of a shit show I became.
She would do it to anticipate.
She was doing that to try to keep me from ruining the day for everybody, because I didn't have Copenhagen. How pathetic that was. I know a lot of my friends used to be like exactly like me. We had to have our Copenhagen or it was going to be over.
Well, I know we could talk forever, and but we're already coming to a close.
Oh my God,
thank
time
you.
flies.
I know, right? Thank you for coming on. I do have, I'm going to share, hopefully I can get it. I do have some upcoming guests and things happening in life. Paula Kemp is joining us next Saturday as my guest. We're going to talk about military sexual trauma. Hopefully, my friend Todd Watkins, we're going to talk about the doctoral journeys that we've both been on for June 20th. No show for me, and maybe I'll do one with Jose. We'll see how that works, because we'll be down in Tampa for the VA Golden Games. You can look forward to that in a couple of years, Scott. The Golden Games. I've been kind of training, kind of not. I've been doing a lot of stuff. July 4th. Thanks. No show July 4th. We're going to recap the VA Golden Games, and hopefully I'll do that also with Jose, because that week we're finishing teaching a class in Maryland. So for women veterans, where's my mic? I don't have a guest scheduled for July 18th. And then Kayani Shoban is going to join us on July 5th. So lots of opportunities for folks to come on the show. And Scott, I would love to have you back on. And, I can put you in touch with the other host on Military Broadcast Radio as well, because I think this is not going to be the last conversation we need to be having about Ibogaine and what the opportunities are for veterans and for first responders. Let's see if we can help put some wind beneath the wings of this and see if it can help you guys. So it's got to be worth something than the regular medication and struggle side of things. Because if we have one veteran that's, committing suicide, that's one too many. And I'd much rather have you guys around us. And thank you for what you've been doing to help protect us and our freedom in America. So thank you so much. Y'all have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Joining Military Broadcast Radio, giving veterans a voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.